Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Queen's Roundtable show and podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison, and I am also the host of A Queen's Roundtable Leadership Symposium, as well as the new CEO and founder of the Realizing Your Potential television network. And I am so excited, everyone. So, as you know, my show and my symposiums and the network are all dedicated to providing leading personal, professional, and leadership development to help women in business, to help women scale their business, whether it be mindset work, whether it's business strategy. It is all catered to you to help you be able to take away practical tips and tools to help you scale your business. So today I have Tonitia Langley, who is an education enthusiast and thought leader. And she is one of the new TV show hosts for the Realizing Your Potential television network. And her topic, or the name of her show, is called Let's Talk K12 Education. I am so excited. So don't go anywhere, okay? Because Miss Tanisha is going to introduce herself and basically tell you a little bit about who she is and how all of this came to be, and tell us a little bit about the show.
Dr. Kaba-Harrison, first of all, thank you so very much for this opportunity. Thank you for having me on your show, and I am also excited. So again, thank you, Dr. Kaba-Harrison, for that introduction. And to give people just shed a little light on the new show that's going to be coming to the network. My name is Tonitia Langley. I'm Bay to George. I'm Ma to three grown children. And I'm Gma to 5 adorable grandbabies with bonus children and bonus grandbabies that come with that package. But in my professional world, as you heard, I call myself as an education enthusiast and thought leader. I'm an education enthusiast because I've taught people ever since I was probably maybe 16, 17 years old with my first jobs. Maybe not academics, but I've always deemed myself as a teacher. I've loved to teach people steps and systems ever since I can remember. And so, which led me into actually declaring a major after being a stay-at-home mom and caregiver for many years. I started my career off, God rest my stepmama's soul, who brought up the suggestion of, hey, have you ever thought about teaching? I was like, no. And so I started my time in actually my children's ministry to see if that is something that I wanted to do. And so hence I, went and declared my major at, it started off as a teacher's college, but now it's East Carolina University in College of Education, and got my bachelor's of science in elementary K6 or reading K12. Taught for a couple of years, did some things, as a leader for a couple of years. And then I went back and got my master's of arts from Gardner-Webb University in curriculum instruction K12. And taught for about a decade. Started off remediation, which is state standardized testing to help schools, help students to meet reading and math growth. And I did very well doing that. Did that for about 2.5 years. And then the last, 6-7.5 years, I was a middle school English language arts and social studies teacher. And I also was an avid elective teacher, which is college and career readiness elective teacher. And then when I came out in 2019, really thought I was going to get another state job, but I actually formed an education consulting business called Enrichment Strategist Services, LLC, and I provide consulting services. So for educational, for nonprofits, for-profits, and then, so, I have my own academic coaching program that I do, which is kind of almost like a micro school, but not quite yet. I might be headed that way towards next year. So classroom teacher, teaching people ever since I was a teenager, leading up to actually declaring a major as an educator, which I thoroughly loved and enjoyed. It was the highlight of my life, and now a education consultant in my own educational consulting firm. So that's kind of like a short walk to who I am and how I pride myself as being an education enthusiast. I'll share a little bit of that sometime, maybe in another show, because it's a long story. But I'm excited to be here. Excited to share my enthusiasm for education on your network, Dr. Kaba-Harrison. So I can't wait to get started.
I'm excited too. And I think that since COVID, I think a lot more individuals or families are choosing, homeschooling. And
Mhm.
in addition to that, I just think that COVID, I think that COVID has really changed a lot of things.
It has.
Education is not the only thing. So, and I know you
Hmm.
mentioned that you came out in 2019 with the
Hmm.
masters, and we know that the lockdown was in 2020. So, I kind of be interested to hear, at some point, just kind of interested to know how has that, from your perspective, how has that also impacted our kids and their education. Oh, and also social skills too. But anyway,
Oh
I
yes.
want to just kind of throw that out there.
Oh
But
yes.
so, you know, I don't want to let you go without you answering that. But before we
Okay.
get to that, I wanted to say it before I forget because my memory is like it be in and gone in a minute. So I
Me
just
too.
I,
We'll help. Look, Dr. Kabar, we'll help each other out. So that
right,
so
you
that is not
gotta
a
remember that,
problem.
right?
Hmm.
So the name of your show is actually going to be titled "Let's Talk K-12 Education."
Yes.
And again, it's coming to Realizing Your Potential Television Network. And you can
Woo!
actually grab the app from Apple TV. So we're going to stream on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Okay. So, oh, and also iOS and Android. So that whatever your preference is, you can download the app and be able to tune in. So, Tanisha, tell us a little bit about the show. What can our listeners or our viewers expect from the show?
Oh, Dr. Kabar Harrison. So, first of all, let me tell you how the show, the thought idea, the thought leadership around that came about, and then I'm going to get into some of the things that we'll discuss. So, one of the things that I would one of the goals of the show, well, there are several, but the main goal is that those conversations that are had in the teacher's break room in our grade level and school level PLCs, which stands for professional learning communities. And sometimes when if you're the type of school that you have to take your kids to lunch, and sometimes the teachers will kind of congregate at one of the tables and have those very frank conversations. And some people will say that it's whining. It's actually not. It's surviving. And sometimes those are the ways that we are. Providing each other with support when I was teaching. And so I want to bring some of those conversations that we were having as educators. I want to bring them to the communities. I want to bring them to our listening audience and our viewers so that they can have the tools, the resources, and the tips to go along with that, because I don't ever want to take it for granted, because this is what I know as an educational enthusiast and thought leader, that okay, this just works for me and my children and my grandchildren. No, I want to spread it among, the community who actually needs it. So some of the things that we're going to talk about, Dr. Kaba-Harrison, and this is just under that whole let's talk K-12 education, tying it back into the concept of the show, which is realizing your potential. We're going to talk about educators and and their personal journeys and how they've realized their own potential. The philosophy of helping others to achieve their full potential. I was able to help do that as a beginning teacher mentor, and a lot of that falls right under helping someone to realize their potential if they're having some so not so good observations, and what they need to do in order to tie themselves together, to be able to show up as the best versions of themselves when they get ready to be observed. Share stories of individuals that I mentored or coached and who've made significant strides. Um, the role of education in personal and professional growth. I love growth. It is what was very instrumental from 2015 to 2019 when we turned a low performing school around, with bringing that school off of a state monitored plan. We were able to not have our behavior support in place because we didn't need it anymore. So, discuss the importance of education in today's world, highlight specific challenges faced by K-12 students and educators. I'll be sharing some of my insights on innovative teaching strategies and the impact on student outcomes, like what I just discussed. The importance of mental health in education. I'm not a mental health professional, but however, serving in a Title I school of historically underserved community, I know a lot about that because a lot of these students showed up, with a lot of trauma, that they dealt with. And although I'm a certified educator, these are still babies that was in my class that I had to deal with and had to be in partnership with our school counselors and our administrators. So, talk about some of the strategies that are used to increase the prevalence of the mental health issues among the students and bring it to light. Sometimes some of those weren't quite external. So sometimes some of those kids fell between the cracks, and I was able to identify, hey, let me pull you to the side and have a conversation. Let me bring the school counselor in and let's have a conversation to see if they need some more support. Explain how schools can create a supportive environment for students' mental well-being. I'll share some of my experiences or strategies for addressing student mental health concerns. Discuss some of the importance of strong parent-teacher relationships. I was also our PTA president. Yes, I was a teacher and was a PTA president because we didn't really have an active PTA. So, what I studied in my for my master's in curriculum instruction, my focus was on family involvement. So I'm a huge advocate for it. I find it extremely important because you have to be in partnership with them, right? Share some tips for effective communication and collaboration between parents and educators. And I will also highlight the benefits of parent involvement in students' education. A lot of times, Dr. Kaba-Harrison, I hate to say this, and it's going to not make some people really happy, but sometimes when parents are putting the kids on the journey to either walk to school or hopping or getting them on the bus, well, once they get them on the bus or send them to school, sometimes some people's attitude is it's the school's responsibilities. No, it's our responsibilities. You know what I mean? So we'll talk about how we can make that partnership um, conducive, where it's helpful for when that child goes home in their environment, and how we can help bridge the home to school connection. The impact of education policy on students and educators, discussing current education policies and their potential impact on students and schools. I'll share my views on how education policies can be improved to better serve student needs. Discuss the role of educators in advocating for policy changes. In North Carolina, and I can't remember the year, but it was a historical moment that made me feel so proud. But it was the Red for Ed. And so we actually ended up shutting the schools down. They let us go to Raleigh and we wore our Red for Ed shirts. And we was just standing there saying, hey, we want to talk to the decision makers, the policy makers for those things. So we took it from our water cooler discussions and our break room discussions, and we actually trekked up to Raleigh. So I'm going to talk about those things. Facilitative instructional strategies engagement, which sometimes, a lot of times, I'm hoping that we'll get a large amount of educators that watch. They don't know how to and what that means, Dr. Kaba-Harrison, is the teacher is working harder than the student, and that shouldn't be. A facilitative approach means that you did the work at home or at school, and now you are putting together a dynamic facilitative types of activities to facilitate instruction. So those kids are working harder than you, and you're just facilitating. So I'm going to explain the importance of engaging students in the learning process, discussing effective facilitative instructional strategies that promote student engagement. Um, share examples of how I've implemented these strategies in my own teaching and coaching practice. And to top it off, I know I've said a whole mouthful, but I am super excited, Dr. Kaba-Harrison, going to actually share some success stories and practical solutions. It's too much of what is not going right in education. And I want to be the light that pierces the darkness to say, hey, it's all not bad. There's some educators bossing it up out there, and there's some kids that take their education very seriously. And I want to bring that to light instead of what's not working right. What is going wrong, and I want to shed some light on what's going right.
Okay, I like that. And this
Yes.
is gonna be
Oh,
good.
mouth.
It's gonna be really good, Tanisha. I'm excited.
Yes.
So again, the name of the show is Let's Talk K12 Education with Tonitia Langley, the education enthusiast and thought leader. Now, target audience, I would assume educators, parents,
Family.
I would
Yep.
think. Okay,
Mhm.
so yeah,
It's
a little
any
bit of
person. Yeah, it's Dr. Kaba. And I want to go back to your pandemic question just a
right.
second.
Yep. Okay.
Um, it's anybody. So yes, it's called Let's Talk K12 Education, but that is, like you said, for educators, for families. Whether you've they're yours, or you adopted them, or you are a mother or father figure to them. If you're a younger person who's interested in education, so it encompasses, and it can encompass the grandparents that may be having having some stake into their grandchildren's lives. Is for stakeholders, because I want them to hear these are the things that are being discussed. I'm so passionate about it. I don't mind coming to the forefront and I'm not a controversial person at all. I believe in enriching and empowering and helping people, like your show, like your network says, realizing their potential. And a lot of times it's not a heavy lift. It's really not. It's lots of small steps towards victory if you're in partnership with people. So I want to go back to, because that's key in who I am today as an educational consultant. So how my educational journey as an educator was, I left 6 months before the pandemic came, and I was in business as an education consultant 6 months. So what my experience around what I witnessed, no, I wasn't a classroom teacher, but I was actually had a contract with a nonprofit company, that a nonprofit organization, excuse me, that provided after school assistance and tutoring. So that means they had mostly people or tutors that were not trained formally in education. So my role as a consultant was to go in, help with best practice, help with pedagogy, because they already had a curriculum. So I didn't have to create the curriculum. The curriculum was already there. This program had been successful for some time before I got there, but I just kind of came in and helped tie together some things. I started off doing one site, then I ended up providing consulting services for two sites that they had. And so my major thing that I accomplished during this time was actually helping this organization move their in class instruction to completely online. And I had to set that up, do the training. So that's where I wasn't in the classroom during the time, but I had to evoke a different set of skill sets of what I knew to help people that weren't formally trained in education to, to work with technology, because you got to keep in mind some of these were older group leaders. And this was also a way that they could continue receiving their income. So that was important to me and the program manager, that okay, if the people that's in charge of the program are totally okay with us moving this to an online program, I can do the training for that. So I was able to provide them with resources, so they could utilize a LMS, which is basically a learning management system that was free. So we found some learning management systems so that they could put their assignments in and put their students in, so that we could still consider, continue with the program. And then I ended up actually doing some consulting services during that time for a mental health agency that provided school-based mental health. And so I went in and did, you talk about leadership. So I did a lot of leadership and mentorship training to clinicians, as well as helping to build that company a behavior support program. So those were the things that I did during the pandemic. And getting adjusted to going into various schools. That's what the thing that made me nervous is, instead of me just being tucked away in one school, I was, visiting multiple schools. I was in, more than just one site. And then, doing the work at the sites, I was the liaison going into the different schools that they were providing services for, that they were servicing, their students. So that's kind of where I was during the pandemic. So I had some challenges, but I take my hat off to classroom teachers. I was familiar with blended learning because I did it as a classroom teacher. Meaning putting your work, putting it on, and then telling it to the students, go in Google Classroom, do these assignments. Here are your instructions. I was familiar with that, but can you imagine, at the drop of a dime, not being familiar with inputting your work into a learning management system? You know, a veteran teacher doing that. So that's kind of where I was during the pandemic. So actually picked up some things that I already knew as a classroom teacher. But my hat definitely goes off, to those classroom teachers that had to learn to move their instruction to online, to little people in kindergarten, who doesn't have their attention span is here, and parents, and some of those people were grandparents having to try to get on and put the kids on, on whatever system the schools were using to drive instruction. So,
It was
whoo.
crazy because let me see, my son is 13 now. He's in eighth grade.
Hmm.
And so, I don't know, what was he in, like fourth, fifth grade, something like that. And
Hmm.
I remember thinking, well, a couple of things. I remember thinking, like, oh my God, because I was working from home, but trying to work, and I had to learn the system too,
Yep.
because I was like, what they want us to do? How they get into this? And
Right.
it was
Right.
just it was a big ball of confusion. And
Right.
I remember at the time, I even counseled some individuals, some teachers that
Mm.
were having challenges
Yes.
with moving to online. Because
Hmm.
like you said, everybody is not, tech savvy like that. It
Right.
was a huge adjustment. And I kind of figured, I just wanted you to kind of speak to that because I'm sure
Mhm.
there's some other, educators out there that had to pivot and maybe had some challenges and can really understand what that was like going from like a classroom to virtual. So
Oh, yes. And I mean, and even though I was not a classroom teacher per se, I still was around teachers because of, me consulting for the organizations that I was consulting for, because they had partnerships
mhm,
with the school system. So I went in them, but I didn't have those responsibilities. That those classroom teachers had.
mhm,
And my heart really, I remember one day sitting in my car leaving from one of the classes when we were kind of coming out of the shock of having to move everything, transition from classroom to online instruction. And I just remember sitting in my car one day. I wasn't even crying for myself. I was crying for those educators. Like, I says, I can't even begin to imagine what that was like. And I even talked to a few of them, and I was able to give some a few tips and traits, from being a teacher that did execute blended learning and inputting assignments, and helping them to make some of that rigorous. Because the other thing that I observed when I was going into the school systems, through the as a consultant with some of the clients that was partnering with the school systems, is some of the educators just put what they needed to put in, and there was no rigor to it. One of the things that I heard some of the parents talk about was their child could actually finish all the assignment in like 5 or 10 minutes, because they didn't know how to convert those assignments and add extra steps so that it makes it engaging and rigorous enough that those students can work through whatever learning target or standard that they were working on. So it was woo.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was. Ooh, I was almost
And
in
hats off to your parents too. Hats off to you,
almost
Dr.
didn't make
Kabah.
it, okay?
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So again, everyone, the name of the show is Let's Talk K12 Education with Miss Tonitia Langley, coming to the Realizing Your Potential TV network. And remember, you can grab the app off of, or shall I say, we're streaming on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and also your mobile apps, so Android and iOS. So you can also have access that way. So stay tuned, and stay tuned to when we're going to announce the start of the show, and for the date and the time, because it's going to be a weekly show.
Yes.
But stay tuned for more details. Okay, make sure you're following me at Dr. Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison on Facebook, my Facebook business page and Instagram is Realizing Your Potential. The number's 123. You can also find me on LinkedIn under my name as well, Dr. Jacqueline Kaba-Harrison. Or you can just, go to my page and just hang out on the app. If you download the app from my page, you can actually get to the other app, so you can actually download it from whatever app is the most convenient for you. Okay, so you can be ready. So if you're not following me already, make sure that you are, as well as Tanisha. So Tanisha, we're going to go ahead and close out. Let them know exactly how they can follow you and basically stay up to date on everything that you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Kaba-Harrison. So, one of the ways that you can stay in tune with me, I've put everything on my link tree. So, you can link tree Enrichment Strategist. There you will find my website. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on my Enrichment Strategist Facebook page. You can follow me on my regular Facebook page because it's public. So those are the ways that you can find me. You can also, if you want to book a call, my Calendly link is up there as well. So those are the ways that you can follow me. And again, some also in addition to the ways that Dr. Kaba-Harrison was saying that you can stay abreast of the show. And I am looking forward to hearing from you all. And also already have a Gmail too, if you want to go ahead and give some ideas at Let's Talk K12 education at gmail.com. Again, if you want to go ahead and provide some ideas of what you would like to hear regarding K12 education, you can email me at let's talk K12 education at gmail.com. Again, follow me on Linktree Enrichment Strategist, and that way you can follow me on all of my social media.
I like that. So that way, so as the audience can participate, and if there's different questions that they want to ask, or things
Yeah.
that you want to, that they want you to touch on, that they're curious about, or
Yep.
you need some help with, That's
Yes.
wonderful. I like that.
Yes.
Definitely
Yes.
make sure you all reach out to her and let her
Yes.
know, that way she can kind of, touch on some of those topics. All right.
Yes. Yep. So again, at Let's Talk K12 Education at gmail.com. And thank you, Dr. Kaba-Harrison. I cannot wait to get started talking about Let's Talk K12 Education.
I love it. I'm excited too. Thank you so much for taking, or shall I say, for taking me up on this opportunity to do this, because I know that this is necessary,
Mhm.
and this is something that people need to know more about. They need to
Yes,
be
they
more
do.
informed. So I am so thankful that
Mhm.
that you answered the, how do you say it, answered the call, or agreed to do this and bring your knowledge and your expertise to the
Thank
Realizing
you.
Your Potential television network. I am excited and I'm honored.
Thank you, Dr. Kamar Harrison, again. Thank you so very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the invite. And I'm so glad that I said yes.
Me too. All right, everyone. So take care. And again, stay tuned, so you can know exactly when we're going to start and when you can tune in. Okay. All right.